Hello guys, today we will be discussing the landmark judgment of the Honorable Supreme Court, that is Vinita Sharma versus Rakesh Sharma, that was decided by the Honorable Supreme Court in the year 2020. Basically, this judgment has settled the position of law insofar as right of female in the co-partnery property is concerned. So you all must be aware about the unprecedented change that was brought by the legislature in the year 2005 with respect to Hindu Succession Act 1956. The Hindu Succession Act 1956 was amended by way of 2005 Amendment Act. This amendment has actually led to hue and cry in the Indian society because the right which was primarily enjoyed by the male has now been conferred to the female also by way of the Amendment Act. Now, let us discuss what is the purpose of this act. The purpose of this act is to do justice. What kind of justice we are talking about here? We are talking about the social justice that is enshrined in the preamble, as well as Article 39 also talks about, that is related to directive principle of state policy, and even this judgment is in light of Article 14, 15 and 21 of the Constitution. So before getting into this judgment, basically we must know as to why there is a requirement of this judgment. What is the need of this judgment? पहले बहुत जजमेंट थी दैट वाज कॉन्फ्लिक्टिंग इन नेचर, मींस एक जजमेंट कुछ बोल रही थी, दूसरी जजमेंट कुछ बोल रही थी, तो किसको माना जाए और किसको नहीं माना जाए, दैट वाज अ कॉन्फ्लिक्ट। और सारी जो जजमेंट थी वो टू जजेस बेंच थी। और अब ये विनीता शर्मा वर्सेस राकेश शर्मा हैज सेटल्ड द पोजीशन एंड इट इज थ्री जज बेंच। द जितना बड़ा बेंच होगा उसका डिसीजन प्रिवेल करेगा। Let us first discuss the two judges bench decision. And firstly, we will be discussing Prakash versus Fulpati. In this particular case, the court has dealt with two issues. The first issue is the nature of this amendment, whether it is prospective in nature or retrospective in nature. And the second issue, whether the father of the daughter has to be alive on the date of commencement of this act, that is, whether the father has to be alive on 9/9/2005 or not. First issue is nature of the amendment. For that, we have to read section 6. And the second issue is whether the co-partner, that is father of that daughter, has to be alive on 9/9/2005. That is the date of commencement of this act. We will be This particular issue was dealt by the Honorable Supreme Court in affirmative, and with respect to the first issue, the court held that it is prospective in nature. So in order to substantiate that is it prospective in nature or not, we have to read section 6. Take out section 6. I do have a soft copy, I do not have a hard copy of that. Please take out. There is a rule of interpretation which states that there is a duty cast upon the courts to give effect to the will of the legislature, which is explicit in the language of the section itself. And court cannot go beyond the language of the section unless there is absurdity to the language of the section. Okay. So if we read section 6, the main heading of section 6, it says that devolution of interest in the co-partnery property. So it clearly states that there must be an existence of co-partnery property. In case there is no co-partnery property, section 6 is not being applicable. In order to apply section 6, there must be an existence of co-partnery property. Let us move to subsection 1. It states that on and from the commencement of Hindu Succession Act 2005, in the joint family governed by Mitakshara law, and daughter of a co-partner shall by birth become a co-partner. So how the daughter is becoming co-partner? On and from the commencement of Hindu Succession Act. On and from 9/9/2005. That is date of commencement. Daughter is becoming co-partner. So when she is becoming co-partner, on and from, that is 9/9/2005. We have to give emphasis upon these two words. On and from the commencement of this act, the daughter is becoming co-partner. And as per the literal rule of interpretation, which is considered to be a primary rule of interpretation, if the language is plain itself, the court cannot go beyond the statute. And language of the section is plain itself. It says that on and from the commencement of this act, the daughter is becoming co-partner. So it is prospective in nature. Let us move to proviso to section 6 subsection 1, which says that provided that nothing contained in subsection shall affect or invalidate any disposition, alienation, including any partition, testamentary disposition of property which had taken place before 20th day of December 2004, which it's basically it's a saving clause. This is subsection 1, and it says that any alienation or disposition, which has taken place prior to 20th December 2005, if it has been taken place prior to 2000, oh sorry, prior to 20th December 2005, it cannot be questioned, it cannot be invalidated merely because of coming up of this act, it cannot be invalidated. Basically they mean to say that, let's suppose there is a joint family property consisting of A, B, C and D. Here D is a daughter. From when she is becoming a co-partner, as per the on and from, as we have read the plain reading of section on and from, she is becoming a co-partner from 9/9/2005, and the partition has taken place, let's suppose, in 2000. In such case she cannot question. Okay, so this also in support of the fact that this amendment is prospective in nature. Let us move to another aspect so as to say that this act is prospective in nature. Let us read subsection 5. I have to erase some of the portion. Section 6 subsection 5 states that nothing contained in this section shall apply to the partition which has affected before 20th day of 2004. So it is primarily applicable in case of partition. If the partition has taken place prior to 20th December 2005, I will be talking about as to these 2 days. I will be talking later on, but as of now you must take into consideration this date only. So let's suppose if the partition has taken place prior to the 20th December 2005, it cannot be invalidated or it cannot be questioned in any court of law. Okay, let's suppose the joint family similar example consisting of A, B and C and D, where D is a daughter. Okay, if the partition has taken place prior to the this date, let's suppose again 2003, it cannot be questioned by a daughter. It cannot be questioned by D at all. Neither it cannot be invalidated by D. So through all these factors or through all these facts, we can say that by plain reading of section itself, we can say that this act is prospective in nature as per this judgment. Okay, let us move to the second issue. The second issue says that the father has to be alive. The court in this particular case held that all daughter will not all daughter will not per se become a co-partner. It is the living daughter of a living co-partner will become a co-partner. All daughters will per se not become a co-partner. It will be a living daughter of a living co-partner. Means both has to be alive on the date 9/9/2005. The female cannot claim the proprietary right or co-partnery right in case his father is died on this date or prior to this date. If his father died prior to this date, she cannot claim the co-partnery right. Okay. So how this court has come to this conclusion? Let us read section 6 subsection 1. Section 6 subsection 1 says that on and from the commencement of Hindu Succession Amendment Act 2005 in a joint family in a joint Hindu family governed by Mitakshara law, the daughter of a co-partner shall by birth become co-partner. Now we will be discussing the another judgment, that is Danamba versus Amar, that is again a two judges bench, and in this particular case the court has dealt with only single issue, that is the nature of this amendment. Issue was nature of the amendment. The court has actually held that it is retrospective in nature. Now we have to see how the court has come to this conclusion. For that we have to read section 6, subsection 1. Section 6 subsection 1 states that on and from the commencement of Hindu Succession Amendment Act 2005 in the joint family governed by Mitakshara law, the daughter of the co-partner shall by birth become co-partner in her own right as in the same manner as that of son. So she is acquiring the right by birth. One side they are stating that on and from the commencement of this act she is acquiring right, and another side they are stating that by birth they are acquiring the right. She is basically by birth she is acquiring right. By the very factum of her birth, she is acquiring right. The moment by the very factum of her birth, she is acquiring right. The moment she took a birth in the joint family, she is said to be a co-partner as per the language of this section. Let's suppose there is A, B, C, and D. That this is joint family. Here D's daughter. Okay, she took a birth in the year 2000. Okay, they were already a co-partner because they are male. They were already a co-partner prior to coming out with this amendment. But she is acquiring right by birth. The moment she took a birth in the joint into family, that is from 2000 only, she is becoming co-partner. But as per the language of the section, it says that on and from the commencement of this act. Now there is a rule of interpretation which states that generally and normally it is the literal rule of interpretation which has to be applied. Basically, we have already talked about the literal rule of interpretation which states that the court is inclined to give effect to the intent of the legislature which is manifest in the section itself, and the court cannot go beyond. But here there is ambiguity, and in this situation the court can deviate from the literal rule of interpretation. And basically this amendment is in light of is in line with article 14, 15 and 21. The purpose of this amendment was to just do away with the impediments or do away with the discrimination which the female was subject to prior to the coming out of this act. So now it is a duty of the court to give it purposive interpretation, and the purpose of interpretation is to do away with the discrimination which the female was subject to. So therefore the court held that she is acquiring right by birth, that is 2000, and not from 99 2005. The court has applied the purposive interpretation and held that she is acquiring right by birth and not from 99 2005. Another section which we have to read in order to substantiate that, we have to read subclause A, that by birth become a co-partner in her own right in the same manner as that of son. So they are saying that in the same manner as that of son. So she is becoming the co-partner in the same manner as that of son. So how the son becomes a co-partner in the joint family property? The son becomes a co-partner by birth itself. He acquires the right the very moment he took a birth. So why not a daughter acquiring the right in the same manner as that of son? If the language itself saying that she will be acquiring right as that in the same manner as that of son, then why you are saying that it is prospective in nature? The court has clarifies that it is it is retrospective in nature by giving purposive interpretation. Now let us move to the next case, and it is a final judgment of the Honorable Supreme Court, that is Vinita Sharma versus Rakesh Sharma. This is actually three judge bench decision. So in this case, the court has dealt with numerous issues. One issue was what is the nature of this amendment. The court has held that it is neither prospective in nature nor retrospective in nature. Then the court has held that it is retroactive in nature. Retro. The court has held basically that the right which is conferred to the daughter is basically based upon some antecedent event. Based upon some, and what is that antecedent event? It is her birth. She is acquiring right because she took a birth in that joint family. So therefore she is acquiring right. Had she not been born in that family, she will not be acquiring right. Therefore the court has held that it is basically retroactive in nature. And let's suppose we say that it is retrospective in nature. The court has held in this case that if we say that it is retrospective in nature, then it will go against section 6 subsection 5, which states that if the partition has taken place prior to 20th December 2004, it shall not be questioned or it shall not be invalidated. Then it will go against that particular subsection. So therefore the court has held that it is retroactive in nature. This issue was resolved. The second issue that was decided in particular case, that was Prakash versus Fulvati, wherein the court has held that it is a living daughter of a living co-partner who is acquiring the co-partnery right. Basically, the court has negated this view and held that the father does not require to be alive. In order to substantiate that, the court has discussed two concepts, that is obstructed heritage and unobstructed heritage. Obstructed heritage basically means there is some kind of obstruction or there is some kind of impediment. But insofar as the unobstructed heritage is concerned, there is no such obstruction. The court has held that, let's suppose a joint family consisting of A, B, and D. Here D is a daughter. Okay. So let's suppose he has self-acquired property of 10 lakh. B cannot claim a right over the his property, that is of 10 lakh rupees, because it is self-acquired property and he do not have a birthright over that property. So he cannot claim. So this is certain obstruction. What kind of obstruction is that he has acquired self-acquired property, and secondly he is alive. The moment he died, the moment A died, the B will acquire that property. But the moment the till then he is alive, he cannot claim as a matter of right in that particular 10 lakh rupees. So this is A here, A is the obstruction. But as far as the unobstructed heritage is concerned, let's suppose there is A, B, and D. Okay. So he has a co-partnery property of 10 lakh. Let's suppose. So how and when he B is acquiring the right in that 10 lakh rupees? He is acquiring right by birth. The very moment he took a birth, he acquired right in that 10 lakh rupees. There is no requirement of A to be alive. This is what unobstructed heritage is. There is no kind of obstruction in that acquiring 10 lakh rupees. Okay. So we can say that A does not require to be alive so that B can claim 10 lakh rupees. So we can say section says that as the same manner as that of son. If son is acquiring right by birth, she will also be acquiring right by birth. But provided, though she is acquiring right by birth, but she can claim that right, that is co-partnery right, on and from 9/9/2005 only. She cannot claim right by birth. Though she is getting right by birth, but she can only claim her right from 9/9/2005. Okay. The last issue which was dealt by the Honorable Supreme Court is, in this case was whether the partition under section 6 subsection 3 is fictional partition or real partition. The court has held that it will be a deemed partition only and not the real partition. As per the language of section 6 subsection 3, the purpose of this section is to give the share to the deceased. Let's suppose A, B, C and D. This is a joint family property. Let's suppose A died. Let's suppose A died. Let's suppose he also have a wife. Let's suppose A died. So now the partition will be fictional partition. He will be getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He will getting 1/5 share. She will also be getting 1/5 share. He died in the year, let's suppose 1990. He will be getting, then he will be getting 1 by 4 share because daughter, here D is not a co-partner over here. So 1 by 4, all of them will getting 1 by 4 share. The purpose of fictional partition is to calculate the deceased share. The purpose of this fictional partition is just to calculate 1 by 4, that is A's share, the deceased share, and not any other purpose. So therefore, it will be said to be deemed partition only and not the real partition. Now the 1 by 4 share will be divided in 4 of them plus 1 by 4 into 4, 1 by 16, 1 by 16, 1 by 16 and 1 by 16. Provided we are talking about the if he has died in the year 1990, if he has died in the year 2006, let's suppose, then all of them will be getting 1 by 5, 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 and his share will be devolved accordingly. Means 1 by 20, 1 by 20, 1 by 20 and 1 by 20. Okay, I will be doing here only. B, C, D. Let's suppose he died in the year 2006. He's also having a wife. Now his share will be devolved 1 by 5, 1 by 5, 1 by 5, 1 by 5. Okay, now 1, 2, 3, 4 plus 1 by 20, 1 by 20 plus 1 by 20. It will be actually 1 by 4 only. They all will be getting 1 by 4 share only. Okay.